Hey, this is Sean Glaze with Sticky Cultures. And if you really want to learn to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. It is Scott Ferguson. A really brief intro on a 2.0 interview with a man that I immensely respect. His name's Sean Glaze. We're in the same arena, but I know my coaching clients will listen to this, they're going to be like, what the heck did you just say? But I think he's forgot a lot more about leadership and coaching than I might ever know. I'm humble enough and my humility is there to admit this, but I immensely respect Sean Glaze. And the knowledge nuggets he drops, I had pages and pages of notes on it. I was probably not doing that great of an interview because I was writing down what he was saying, but he just authored a new book, What Effective Leaders Do. Amazing book. And he writes them all just like I'm starting mine in a business parable, a story, a hero's journey. And it's just amazing. It's a plain flight read. And when you're done, you put it down, you're ready to attack. And so that's all I got to say. So I'm going to kind of shut up and just pass it on here to Sean. A fantastic conversation. It might be a little longer than what we're used to, but I promise you, once you hear it, you'll understand why, and you'll have your own notes as well. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Sean Glaze from Sticky Cultures. Let's level up. Hey, Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. Welcome back to another powerful edition of the Time to Shine Today podcast with Coach Fergie. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, blessed to be your gap coach, specializing in mental performance conditioning, working with professionals and amateur athletes, business leaders, entrepreneurs, entertainers, C-suite, and students to help them bridge their success gap and to live a life of options and not obligations. On this platform, we are stoked to bring you high performers who are not just chasing and attaining success, but redefining it through providing above and beyond service. And talk about this, like I had my really good friend who I'm about to introduce you to on May 12th of 2020. It was episode 78. And my good friend, Sean Glaze, is a game changer in the world of leadership and culture. He went from commanding huddles as a championship-winning basketball coach to now leading boardrooms and ballrooms across the country. His name, again, Sean Glaze. Remember this name. And this man knows how to turn raw talent into unstoppable teamwork. Sean is a dynamic keynote speaker and team-building expert who's worked with powerhouse organizations like Cisco, Deere, the CDC, and Emory University, helping them boost collaboration, productivity, and build what he calls sticky cultures. Environments people don't want to leave and teams thrive in. Again, he's the author of 4 books. I just getting a little late on this podcast because I was picking his brain. He was so generous with his time. He's got his books, Rapid Teamwork, also the 10 Commandments of Winning Teammates, Staying Coachable, and this latest and greatest, which we're going to dig into, What Effective Leaders Do. And each one of these books are packed with real-world lessons. I love parables. Real-world lessons that create real-time results. So if you're a leader who's tired of lip service and wants practical strategies that actually stick, buckle up. Sean's here to help you elevate and energize your team and lead with intention. Sean, thank you so much for coming back. Again, it's been 5+ years, but you and I stay in touch periodically, just via text, cheering each other on and whatnot. But I have to ask you, is there a superpower that you have that maybe nobody knows about?
A superpower? Man, no, not at all.
You can just take 11 kids from different backgrounds and make them a championship team. That's it.
I am the result of stealing and borrowing and adapting and adopting information.
Yes.
From an unbelievable buffet of people I've been very blessed to be acquainted with. So, no, I'll tell you what, that introduction, Scott, I'm going to have to record or use that recording next time I'm up on stage.
I'll do it.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome. I've been really, a lot of people is that chat? I'm like, no, dude, I like to get creative with my stuff and because I'm just high energy and just want to really get the people that have carved their time to come on and share with the listeners out there, squad, that make them shine. So what has been going on? What's been happening lately, my friend?
Well, as you said, I'm really excited to have What Effective Leaders Do, the most recent book that I've published.
Yes.
It's been great and had unbelievable reviews and response in terms of referrals, and that being one of the more recent keynotes, obviously, is kind of built around the book. So thrilled to share that with leaders. And it really is kind of the last piece of, I know you mentioned the idea of sticky cultures. When I first started years ago with great results, team building, the idea of building a great culture with rapid teamwork and helping your employees become winning teammates and then helping those people stay coachable. I think that effective leadership is that last piece of the cycle that helps organizations build a sticky culture.
I love the sticky culture. I wish I would have thought of that first because it's awesome. I mean, what you were before, it was kind of, it was elementary. It was like spot on, right? But this like is like sticky cultures, dude. That's awesome. That's awesome. And speaking of sticky cultures, like people will talk to me about like I train my employees to actually leave me, right? But I try to treat them like they never will, right, Donnie? But it's like, but like in all seriousness, though, like that's what I got a lot out of kind of the book, Effective Leadership, like really treating the people like they want to be treated, right? But also getting them the opportunity to grow, especially with, I believe we're going to get into all the characters, but the boss, right? Because he was like freaking out like the whole book, right? And I also have to talk about the husband. We're going to get there because he never is in present. He's always away. But the how you wrote that to have him such a domineering like effect in the book, you know what I'm saying?
Well, thank you.
That was awesome, dude. That was just awesome. I know I'm spoiling it a little bit, Squad. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but I really want to ask Sean here. Like you talk about building sticky cultures, right? So what's the one mistake that you think leaders make that causes their culture to unravel? And is there any like kind of thing that when you walk into a company, right, that you maybe get them going to maybe start self-correcting, understand they didn't get there overnight, it's going to take them a minute, but help them start self-correcting quicker?
Yeah, most of the time, and that's a great question. I think most of the time when people reach out to me, it's because they've looked for something regarding culture or team building, and they understand that, man, they've got great talent and we've got good strategy, but we're missing something. And that's where I was my very first year after being a head coach when our talent underachieved because I'd been a horrible leader as a young coach. And I'd focused upon the same two things that I think most organizations do, which is everybody is in the talent acquisition business. Whether it's basketball or business, we want good salespeople, we want good technical workers, we want people who can fill this role and do a great job in that role. And then we put together and we have retreats and you have leadership invest a great deal of time and energy in building out their strategy for the year, for the next 5 years. And I did the exact same. I had good talent and I had really good X's and O's, and our team underperformed because I neglected that third part, which is again why people I think ultimately reach out to me, which is they realize we're missing that third piece of the puzzle that would allow our talent to implement the strategy effectively, and that's culture. And I think that culture is always a symptom of leadership. And when I work with organizations, I always define culture as just the behaviors that are allowed and repeated. But you as a leader, regardless of reputation or title or whatever that position is, you as a leader, leadership is that influence we have on other people through the interactions that we have each day. And I think that the idea of being an effective leader, regardless of position or title, has everything to do with being intentional about those interactions so your influence ends up changing behaviors that improve your culture.
And you're still going into companies and working with their leadership teams and stuff. And this is a question I've been waiting 5 years to ask you because I know I didn't ask you on our last time. But so if you go in to a company and you're getting brought in, maybe the CEO, maybe human resource, maybe somebody is like, say, we need to bring Glaze in here, right? Like we need his skills. So there's always going to be that guy that's one or two rungs, maybe above HR, but below the CEO, that is like, dude, what is this guy doing here? Like, really, bro? So how do you handle, I'm going to say handle, how do you communicate with that person to get them, again, to make that sticky culture? Because to be sticky culture, you have to be working together, right? So can you tell me how you do that?
Well, my last book, Staying Coachable, is really what addresses that, because I think for our people to be coachable, we need to be a great example of that in the first place. And I love that you do kind of gap coaching, Scott, because that really is what I end up doing with organizations is you take in to account when you're contacted, it's because there is a gap between where they're at and where they want to be.
Yes, sir.
And acknowledging that is the reason they reach out and give you the call or send you the email.
Right.
When you first have that meeting, whether it's in a half or a full day training, or it's in a conference situation, or you're going in to do coaching with a leadership team, there's always somebody who is arms crossed and leaning back with an eyebrow raised. And that's the person that you
That's
really
the
need to
guy.
win over
Yeah.
because they're the anchor on the ship moving
Right.
forward.
Right.
And I think that the very first and most significant thing you can do as a leader, again, regardless of position, is to acknowledge reality, right? There's
Right.
always going to be somebody who is hesitant, somebody who has questions, somebody who is a little bit cynical and not sure, somebody who's seen other change prerogatives take place over the years and says, I'll live through this one too, et cetera, instead
Right.
of really being somebody who is bought in because they do have an appreciation for what's going to happen if we actually invest in and apply this thing. I think that acknowledging the reality of, hey, when I'm brought in for team building, one of the first things I'll do is, all right, raise your hand if when you heard team building, you rolled your eyes because you had no idea what the blank you were in for.
Right.
I'm not going to have you hold hands and sing songs. We're going to do some really relevant activities and give you a chance to interact and to acknowledge how attitudes and actions of the people that you depend on and the people depend on you affect your team's performance. And I
Sure.
want to make sure that by the end of our time together, that you value this. And yeah, I want you to have a great time and laugh together, but I
Hmm.
want you to have a few things in your back pocket
Sure.
that you can take away as insights or tactics that you do differently so you're better in your role and you have more positive influence on your coworkers and clients so you enjoy more success as well. And I
And
think that that idea of giving them what is that valuable outcome that's going to be the result of your investment and you giving me a little bit of trust to begin with is really, really important.
it, and I love that because I don't bash on anybody because I've been to the breaking boards and fallen backwards, and you expect the people. And okay, I've learned. I'm a sponge, brother, so I'll pick up something anywhere. And those aren't my cup of tea either, right? When I teach, and I don't really speak to leadership more than mindset, right? But like is there any like thing that you can share that maybe you do in one of your leadership presentations where you're with somebody for a day or a weekend, an exercise that you do with them that really gets them that probably stands out to them when they leave?
Well, I think everything when you talk about, and I'm so grateful for you having me on for my recent book, What Effective Leaders Do. And the opening of the book, there's the main character,
Jen, yep.
is struggling with her new role as a leader. And there's a big difference between technical skill and interpersonal skill as a leader and what management means.
Yeah.
And so she meets up with this mentor, and the mentor, the first of the four major lessons that he shares is about awareness. And I think that that is the thing that any
Mm,
experience that I facilitate, even when I'm on stage at a conference, if there's 600 people in the audience, you can't do small group type of activities, but
right.
you're still going to give them an experience. Maybe that's a story that you tell that has a powerful, memorable takeaway, or
Mm,
maybe that is an activity that you actually have them do individually or somebody beside them, or even a mental kind of activity where they're thinking through something. It's the activities or the stories that, as an experience, you hope to shift their awareness. And awareness drives our beliefs, and beliefs determine behaviors, and behaviors become culture. And so, if I can, as a facilitator or speaker, give them an experience that shifts their awareness, that makes them appreciate or notice something that they didn't previously, the experience becomes powerful because when they think about that activity or that story, it's going to carry with it the nugget of insight that they can apply. And that's where the
love
value
it.
comes.
Love that. It's just the awareness and being aware you have to be present. Right? I mean, it's 100%. Like I love with my clients, I get to meet them then in person. And I really started opening up more business here in Palm Beach because my coach twisted my arm to do it. Anyways, that's another story altogether. But like I'll sit clients in their car, right? In the driver's seat, and I'll sit in the passenger seat. Well, I want to see how they keep their car because there's a lot I can tell mindset
That
wise,
is so
know how
true.
they keep their car, right? But secondly, I should point out the rearview mirror and say that's small for a reason. It's a great place to visit and learn from, but we can't live there, can't do anything about it. The windshield is big, scary. Oh my gosh, where are we going? And then, but you can't get anywhere unless you buckle your seatbelt if you so choose to. Start the car and then put it past neutral, past reverse, into drive to go forward. But I kind of explained that since 2011, I'm this thing that's been sitting on your dash called the GPS, right? So like everything is about a present neutral mindset. So is that kind of what a real awareness is, or is there something else that we could add to that?
Well, I think absolutely that idea of presence. You want to make sure that your stories and your activities in the midst of any session or program are going to maintain attention, because attention is that doorway where you again they are present enough to experience and appreciate and apply those
Yeah,
takeaways.
right.
And I love the idea of sitting in the car because it does provide not just information for me to see what's in the floorboards or backseat, et cetera, but for that client
Yeah.
to then appreciate, because we used to teach our players back when I'm still coaching basketball, no rear view criticisms. And we use the same thing as the rear view mirror.
Mm,
My job, if I'm going to be a leader, if I'm going to be a winning teammate, is to think next play and look out the windshield, what's about to
thank
happen
you.
that I can influence, instead of complaining about something that's already happened that now we can't change.
I
And so I
change.
think that's a powerful deal. The other thing that I would share with leaders that I think you can absolutely steal, Scott, is that idea of you're only going to make progress and improve as a leader organization when there is activity. And not all activity is going to end up being productive. And sometimes you end up needing to turn the car, but you can't steer a parked car. And a lot of times we get so caught up
Bro, yes. Yeah.
and
Keep
we
going.
get
Keep going.
that
Yes.
kind of sense of perfection and not wanting to
Yes.
be imperfect and not willing to be vulnerable or not willing
Analysis
to not know,
paralysis. Yeah, I got you.
that we get
Yeah.
paralyzed. And you need to give people permission to be imperfect sometimes. You need to have a bad sales call to have a better sales call. And I think that idea of everything that we do is creating those moments of experience that then shift an awareness and give them something that they weren't aware of beforehand that they can apply and be better in their role.
Gotcha. And so Tony, okay, in the story, right? I have a Tony in my life. I'm sure you obviously probably have a Tony or two in yours, right? So the lessons that are echoed by Tony that I picked up from, the very kind of old schoolish, rational way of teaching. He's a plumber without spoiling anything too much, but was Tony inspired by somebody in your life, like a family member, teacher, someone from your past, or is it a conglomerate of a lot of people mixed together? Just curious.
I think that's a great, and there's part of me that wishes I had that one person that was a powerful mentor that I was always reaching out to, that had
Right.
always kind of been there
Right.
in the shadows, helping me to earn the spotlight. And I've honestly, I think I've benefited, Scott, from the fact that there's not been one. There's probably been 6 or 8 over the
Yes,
years that
brother.
at different
Yes.
points. And I used to share with students and athletes and parents and obviously leaders that when the student's ready, the leader will appear. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Right.
I think
Right.
when the student's ready, they'll notice the leader who was already there.
Thank you. There's action to be taken in there. And you said, like, I think you said something about awareness, belief, and action, or something like that, along with what you were talking about. And if you're aware of it, the belief's there in that person, the action's taken, right? So, like, in the book, and again, what effective leaders do, Squad, go out and pick it up. I will do a book giveaway at the end if you stick with us. But is there a specific moment or character in the book that was pulled directly from your coaching life?
I think I'm Jen in a lot of ways.
Okay. All
Jen
right,
is the main
dude.
character.
Yeah.
And I think that we all, as leaders, at some point, we have that squish moment where we don't know what to do and we didn't know that there was something going on that we hadn't been addressing. And
Right.
I'll mention to leaders when I'm kind of giving this talk, the most costly and destructive issue on your team is the one that you haven't yet addressed. And the
Yes.
idea of awareness is, I think that there is a ladder of awareness. I think we start off being unaware.
You stole my
And
question, but keep going, man. Let's go with that
yeah,
ladder.
and so when Jen wakes up early in the book, she
Yeah.
walks downstairs and she finds out that there's an issue that she wasn't aware of that has affected her day. And that lack of awareness didn't keep the problem from causing damage. That lack of awareness just meant that she wasn't able to address it early enough
Right.
to keep the damage to a minimum. Then once you are once you are symptom aware,
Right.
you notice the damage. And we've all at some point in our lives had some type of water leak or some issue that's
Sure.
occurred where you see the symptom, but cleaning up the water off your floor doesn't fix the problem. And I think that a lot of times as leaders, the main takeaway from just something as simple as that ladder of awareness is, once you're aware of a symptom, treating only the symptom doesn't improve your team or your culture, right? That idea of, if I just consequence a kid for being late and I make an assumption that he's late because he's lazy, irresponsible, or doesn't care, that symptom doesn't get better. And he's going to end up being late later on until I'm compassionate and curious enough to go from symptom aware to problem aware. And I think that's where leaders have such an opportunity is to look at whatever the symptom is that's causing damage in your organization, that was an issue that needs to be addressed. What's behind the symptom, and how can you, in one-on-one conversation, be curious enough and compassionate enough to discover the problem that really needs to be solved?
Isn't it crazy that goes across anything in life, right? Symptoms don't, like, I dealt with something the past couple of years health-wise, and the symptoms, we were just taking care of the symptoms. We weren't digging down deep enough to find that, right? Like like what you're talking about is, once I'm aware of a system, treating that does not affect the culture. You got to get to the problem, the actual root cause of it, right? So let's go back a little bit to the ladder of awareness, right? It's powerful. Like unaware, how's it? I actually wrote this down. Unaware, symptom aware, problem aware, and solution aware. I got those four, right?
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So this ladder in action, which is freaking awesome, is something that I'm definitely taking bits and part of that, because there's some of my mindset clients that work in leadership, and I'm able to kind of pass it forward. And I will always give you homage and be like, listen, a coach is a really good friend of mine, blah, 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 stuff. But look, the whole ladder, like, is this, again, not to get too personal, but was it ladders of your life that you came aware of it, or where did you come up with the ladder analogy?
Well, I think that, and thank you, because yeah, I think everything is autobiographical in some way, right?
Right. Yeah.
And when I referenced early on, that very first year I was a high school basketball coach, I thought I knew everything. I think every
Right.
young emerging leader goes in with a little bit of arrogance, which is, I don't need help. I think
Right.
confidence is thinking you can help. Arrogance is thinking you don't need help. And then ultimately, the most effective leaders realize that humility is a willingness to ask for help.
Yes.
And so that idea of, as a young coach, realizing that my arrogance had hurt my team and hurt my team's performance, and that willingness to be coachable in the next off season, to seek out the answers and to try and improve my awareness, because I knew what the symptom was. It was we were losing games and we really shouldn't have played the way that we were. And you should have had better effort and better enthusiasm and better teamwork. And I was responsible for making things better. And so what could I do to be better in my role so my team could enjoy a whole lot better experience themselves?
Right.
And I think that ultimately you're going to have that ladder of awareness experience maybe a dozen times a day based upon the different things you're dealing with.
Yes,
and
sir.
We're always in that mode of hopefully working to intentionally, you take time to reflect on and to get feedback for and to get coaching to help us to recognize the things we're unaware of that are hurting our team, and to move from symptom aware to problem aware. Because once you identify what the real problem is and you can kind of get to the heart of what's going on, the solution is oftentimes a whole lot simpler than you think. It's just realizing what the problem is so you can really address it. And I think that leaders, when they get intentional about kind of following that and taking those steps with every member of their team and every issue their team is kind of enduring or dealing with, they become more effective in their role.
Yeah. And the metaphor for that, I think, might be the water leak that we had in the story, right? Like that's genius metaphor, by the way, because it all came full circle, because they got to the problem of it, not just it leaking, right? So, like, what are you finding in the clients that you're coaching right now, or the companies, that is a leak, but the actual problem goes a little deeper? Like, what are you seeing in most companies these days as you're kind of coaching them with regards to like the actual problems within companies? Like, what are you seeing right now?
Well, if they're calling me about culture, I think that culture, and this is from my first book, Rapid Teamwork, culture is based upon 5 areas, right? And the idea of great culture, and I use cheesy acronym, but great culture is about 5 areas to focus on. And it starts with goals. Have you clarified those goals? And
not cheesy, brother. It's pretty awesome, bro. It's awesome.
Relationships would be next. And what does it mean to build trust and make sure you're aware of and appreciate the differences and challenges of your people? Then setting clear expectations. What does success look like for us? What are our standards and values going to be? having accountability conversations and make sure you're making adjustments based upon maintaining those standards, and then thanking people for their efforts and making sure they feel seen and
Love
appreciated, that
that,
they value. And so
dude.
when I talk with a leader, ultimately that gap that you're going to talk with them about is going to be in one of the 5 areas. And we all as
Right,
leaders are going to have one or two that we are incredibly strong at. But
right.
we're also, if we're acknowledging the reality, we're also going to have to admit, you know what? I'm not doing a good enough job in this area or that area. And that's where the leaks are. And that's why my people are leaving, or that's why my people are a little bit less content. And our job as leaders now, and again, talent is at a premium. If we want to
Mm,
keep the people in our locker room, we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can so they don't get poached to a different locker room.
sure.
That's not just NIL in college. That's you and your business, because good people and good talent, you want to make sure that they do feel appreciated. And those 5 areas of culture are ultimately kind of loyalty anchors to make sure that they stay where they're going to be appreciated and an opportunity to grow, et cetera.
And I love it with Jen. Like, do you like? I saw some. Jen is the main character in the book squad that's in there out there, right? Okay, and her day wakes up chaotic, bro. Like, one, her husband's not there, and I'm like, dude, is he dead? You know what I'm saying? Because the way you started it was like you got you thinking like, where's this Brian dude at?
Right.
Like, what's going on? With genius, genius, how you threaded him in, because a lot of time in stories it's like going home and the wife or the husband's there, being Mr. Supportive, Mrs. Supportive, like on the spot, right? Like, genius how you wrote Brian in from afar. He was coaching, right? Spain or something like
Yeah,
that.
he's in the story. He's a college coach. He's away for kind of a preseason travel experience with the
Right.
team he had become a part of. But I think that that's really necessary. And what I wanted to do in the story is to give that main character, Jen, especially as a female leader, that sense of confidence. And confidence is always going to be a result of the competence you build from having the courage to step into an uncomfortable situation and take ownership of it, and to address those areas within ourselves that need to get better so we can become competent. And that's obviously the last lesson of the book, is that idea of confidence. But you don't become confident if you actually have somebody else there as a crutch, whether it's somebody as a leader or somebody as a coworker or somebody at home. I think that we build confidence when we realize I have the strength and skills to navigate any
Yes.
circumstance.
Yeah.
I can handle it. And that's a pretty powerful phrase for
Huge.
leaders to have internally.
Right.
Whatever it is that I'm walking into today, I can handle it.
Right. Right. And I love you say that, because a lot of people will attach their confidence to their abilities, right? And it's like I look at myself, kid that grew up in Detroit, dad worked on the line at General Motors. He's my best friend. I get it. But how am I doing what I do, standing up in a couple thousand people, being able to coach professional athletes? And even before I got on stage one time, I was like freaking out. I'm like, I don't belong here. Like, this is not me. And then a really good friend of mine, a fellow speaker, pulled me aside and said, dude, what's your intention? And I'm like, my intention? What do you mean? He goes, an intention. When you get on the stage, I'm like, to have one person leave here and really level up and seeing it. And he's like, then attach that to your confidence. Attach those intentions to your confidence instead of the abilities. If you live an intentional life, which Jen learns throughout her story, right? Intentional awareness, like there. It's like, that's what I've really learned. And I think that you and I are like so similar, because the name of my book that's coming out is Harmonic Hustle, right? It's like a lot of people, oh, I want balance in my life. To me, I think balance is junk. But 10 pounds on this side, 10 pounds on that side, you have zero, right? But like I like Susan and me and my Susan, we love jazz. So we'll go out searching when we travel, we'll find a jazz place and listen. And like I like to give each pillar of, you know, like harmony, like God or spiritual might be the drums, personal growth might be the horns, the family might be the piano, community might be the guitar, on and on. If one of them's out of tune, right, that's a leak, right? But we can get that leak taken care of by getting the problem of the leak. And you don't have to be Beethoven on the piano or Eddie Van Halen on the guitar, right? You just have a solid coach to help you get back into harmony. Now, you have to have balance within the harmony, right, to get it going, but you don't really have to be balanced out, right? I mean,
Well, if you listen to great jazz, every one of those different instruments is going to have its own solo at some point, right? And
Yes,
yet they're
yes,
weaving in with each other. And I think that
yes.
idea of,
Love that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that, and Dan Thurman, fellow speaker here in Georgia, his book and one of his messages is off balance on purpose. And to your point, the idea of the best lived lives aren't on
Dude.
balance. They are
Yeah.
off balance, but with a purpose and intention that I'm going to pour more of myself into this at this point because it's what today or this point in my life may need. And I think there are times, if you look back across the seasons of even our life to this point, there are different times where you were off balance intentionally in order to build something that the other areas of your life would benefit from.
Love that. And it's so true with that. It like the harmony, like it made sense to me when I was younger because I was always searching, okay, this is fine. That's perfect. Guess what? Something else is going to come out of harmony. Like something else is going to unravel no matter what. Like in one of my speeches is everything's finite, whether it's good or bad. If I'm like, oh, I'm going to go up and me and Sean are going to meet at the grill there in Marietta and crush some good food. But guess what? That dinner ends. So you have to find stuff consistently to feed yourself, to feed others, to overlap happiness in a sense, right? So that's it. That's amazing. Sean, we're going to do our leveling up lightning round. Okay.
All right.
It will, like, again, I know it's been 5 years, but the rules are you got 5 seconds with no explanations. And they can all be answered that way, I promise. We're going to put it on that 30 seconds left. You got to draw up the play. You got it ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Here we go, Mr. Sean. What's the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
Oh, that is so tough. I've enjoyed so much really good advice. I'm killing the 5 second rule. Be yourself. I
Love
think
that.
that
Yeah.
idea of
I mean, the shot clock went off like 10 seconds ago. That's okay.
I
I'm just
understand
messing, brother.
late with the release there. But certainly that I feel that idea of being authentic as a leader and realizing that you are going to be uniquely yourself and the most
Love it.
successful when you actually you give yourself permission to be a little bit different because
Beautiful.
of who that is.
Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Oh man, I am a voracious reader. You see behind me, I've got 3 other bookcases
Yep.
throughout the house that my wife laughs at me because I'm constantly buying stuff off Amazon. Looking forward to yours coming out because I want to learn from you as well.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate that, man. Your most commonly used emoji when you text.
Commonly used emoji. Probably, unfortunately, the thumbs up. And I'm trying to get better. I'm a reformed thumbs upper and I'm trying to add hearts more often, according to my wife telling me I need to.
I love that. So if I was over your house and I was in my doldrums and you're like, man, Fergie needs to be leveled up. And like, I've read all 4 of your books. Like, is there a book back there that you would go back and reach and say, read this? And like, it's really helped me turn a corner in my life.
I am a huge fan of parables, and that's why I ended up writing parables myself. I think that the greatest salesman in the world.
Yeah, Augie. Yep. Ogman. Yeah.
I think
there you go.
Bob Berg and The Go-Giver. I think that I have even something like The Energy Bus and some of the others from John. I think that I have very much been inspired by not just the entertaining nature of the stories, but the takeaways that you can apply. And that's what I've tried to emulate with many of mine, Scott.
I love it. And also, have you read Andy Andrews' The Traveler's Gift?
Traveler's Gift is on my bookcase, and that was the very first book that I encouraged my wife to read after I finished it. Love that by Andy Andrews.
2009, he's going to be my 500th episode interview, by the way, right? So 2009, my little brother put a gun in his mouth, unfortunately took his life. I was in a really deep place, ran out of money, and I went to the library just out of just boredom. And this guy said, hey, I think you need to read this. And it was A Traveler's Gift. And I was like, wow, dude, like David Ponder, just like getting like what he did. That's awesome. And it's so cool that you read it as well. So chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Oh, chess for sure.
Gotcha. Nicknames growing up?
Glazer. Playing soccer. Yeah.
Love
or
it.
Elbows, because I didn't have the talent to be as good as I wanted to be. So probably a little more physical than I should have been.
Love that. Headline for your life.
Be better so you help others be better as well.
That's beautiful. Love that. Go-to ice cream flavor.
Oh, chocolate and coffee.
Awesome. So we're going to build a sandwich and call it the Elbow Glazers. What's on that sandwich? What are we eating?
Roast beef, pepper jack, lettuce, mayo, brown mustard.
There we go. Perfect. Favorite charity and organization like to give your time and or money to?
Well, Miles for Melanoma. We did a walk in Augusta. My sister-in-law passed away from melanoma almost a decade ago. And so for the next 5 years after that, we put together a walk and raised thousands and thousands of dollars to hopefully help other people to benefit from what Jan wasn't able to.
Gotcha. Miles from Melanoma or Miles for Melanoma?
Miles for Melanoma.
Love it. Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. And last question, the best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
I kind of straddle the 80s and 90s, but I'm going to have to say 80s just because there's so much still back there that is horribly good now. Right?
I graduated in 1990, so I was like all 80s, right? So it was like, I love to listen to the 70s when I'm kind of like editing a podcast or I'm re-listening to what my team gives me, because like there's story in the 70s and stuff like that. And yeah, so that like we're right on board with there. So Sean, how can we find you, my friend?
Appreciate you asking, man. So enjoyed the conversation, Scott. It's if I can be a resource for your listeners, I would be thrilled. They can find me online at stickycultures.com. They can actually get all kinds of free resources from my website. If they go to toolboxstuff.com, that gives them a sign in, or that gives them the ultimate link to my toolbox of leadership and team building resources and downloads and activities and tools of goodies. And then online at LinkedIn, just find me at Sean Glaze, and we're more than happy to have a conversation, see if there's any way I can help.
Absolutely. And what effective leaders do. It's out now, and I just had a major issue here in my studio, and I couldn't get Sean in when it dropped. But let me just do this. If you are watching on Vimeo or YouTube, this is the book, What Effective Leaders Do. Like, it's super easy to pick up, very, very reasonable on price. Again, it dropped in June of 2025. And again, it's his fourth book. So this guy is my good friend Sean is on a roll here. Each one of them are highly acclaimed and bestsellers. So I'm just like so blessed. And you guys need to get out there and pick this book up. I read it on a flight. Like, it's funny, right before we recorded, Sean's like, it's a great read. I like to write stuff that's a great read on a flight. It was literally a flight. It was a flight to Denver. I read this book. And squad, the first three people that put elbows, which I know you've listened to the podcast, in any link or text it to 561-440-3830. Again, it's 561-440-3830. I will be happy to, on Time to Shine Today's dime, send out a book to you and read it, and just make sure you write the testimonial feedback for it, because you're going to read it. You're going to go away with lessons that Tony passed on to Jen. And again, pick up his other books as well, because they're amazing. I love parables, man. I'm so biased, right? Like you are too. So that's how I learn the best. From Jesus Christ and the Bible to like this now, it's like, dude, parables is where it's at. So Sean, do me one last solid, please, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can kind of take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Awareness is the key to being more effective in your role. There's three ways you become more aware, and that is through reflection, through feedback, and through coaching. And so again, look forward to them reaching out to you to continue to close their gaps with you. And if ever I can be of service, please know I'd be thrilled to have that opportunity.
And squad, if you're looking to bridge that gap, and someone with an excellent leadership, sports background, I'd be happy to make a warm introduction to my friend Sean, who reminded us a lot of businesses are just nothing more than a talent acquisition business, right? They're just going after the stuff. They're not going after the culture. And the culture is a symptom of that leadership. We need to acknowledge the reality that's within leadership and have people really leaning in to the culture that everybody grows together. And again, the awareness drives, or your beliefs drive reflection, feedback, and through coaching. That's how you get it back. I just walked all over. I'm going to edit that part out. But when there's an activity, it reminds us the only way to exceed as a leader, you have to have action. You've got to press forward. And once you're aware of a symptom, treating it, just the symptoms, not going to really affect the culture. You got to get deep. You got to get to where that problem is. One thing that stood out, he said that competence breeds confidence, right? Get competent on stuff, and the confidence will follow, and make sure that you're intentional about what you're doing. And also, there's a book that he mentioned I'm going to pick up, Off Balance on Purpose, that book by Mr. Thurman, you said too, right, Sean?
Thurman, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pick that up. And squad, I just want to thank Sean for coming back. He got it here, his second letter jacket here, Time to Shine Today. Thank you so much, Sean, for coming on. Anything I can ever be of service to you, I'm going to be there. And I can't wait to collaborate with you at some time in our lives.
Very much grateful for the time with you, buddy.
Appreciate you, Sean. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you'd like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.